everybody. The Women's History Conclave happily welcomes you all to this very special event, a conversation between Ashima Chhibber, director of Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, and Professor Rekha Pande. The film, as you know, is based on the life and struggles of Shagorika Chakraborty, an educated girl from Bengal who had accompanied her husband to Norway and had subsequently had 2 children. The children were taken away from the couple by the Norwegian state because Shagorika allegedly was incapable of looking after them. Shagorika fought a long-drawn legal battle with the state of Norway to get back her children and was successful in the end. In course of her struggles, her marriage crumbled, but she was undeterred. This film has created an amazing sensation since its release a few days back. Most of us have already seen the film and have shed buckets of tears while watching it. The film also triggers some controversy. Some feminists have questioned the way a biological mother has been glorified in this film. We are looking forward to a vibrant interactive session at the end. But let us now introduce our esteemed guests to the audience. Rekha Pande is Professor of History and Women's Studies. Her work is in the interdisciplinary area of history and women's studies. She is currently a Professor Emeritus at the Henry Martin Institute, an International Center for Research, Interfaith Relations, Reconciliation, Hyderabad. She is also the director of the Society for Empowerment Through Environment Development, SEED. She was earlier the head of the Department of History and head Center for Women's Studies at the University of Hyderabad. She was also the director of Women's Studies at the Maulana Azad National Urdu University. She has been the founding member of 2 centers for women's studies, one at Maulana Azad National Urdu University and the other at the University of Hyderabad. Professor Pande was the chair of the Women's World Congress held in 2004. This was the first of its kind in India. She has, to her credit, 23 books and more than 200 articles in national and international journals, book chapters and proceedings. Professor Pande has been the editor of the International Feminist Journal of Politics. This has been brought out by, this is published by Routledge, Taylor and Francis Group, UK. She has also edited Foreign Policy Analysis, which has been published by Blackwell, USA. She has received the Visiting Fellowship at the Birkbeck Institute of Humanities, University of London, International Visiting Fellowship at the School of Policy Studies in the University of Bristol, UK. She was also the academic fellow at the University of Buffalo, USA, and international visiting scholar at Maison de Research, Paris, and visiting professor. She was also the visiting professor at the University of Artois, France. She was invited as an erudite scholar for gender studies by the government of Kerala in 2016. She was also nominated as the Peace Ambassador for the South Asia region by the International Women's Peace Group, Korea, for the year 2016 to 18. Professor Pande has been the project director of 42 projects. She has guided 23 PhD and 46 MPhil students in both history and gender studies. She has been an assessor for NAC and has been involved in the accreditation and evaluation of a large number of number of colleges and universities across India. She has widely traveled in India and abroad to deliver keynote addresses and lectures and to present papers in national and international conferences. She has been recently invited by the National Commission for Women, Government of India, to be its resource person for gender sensitization and gender development programs in India. I now request the co-convener of the Women's History Conclave, Dr. Bhashwati Chatterjee, to introduce Professor Dipti Misra Sharma. Over to
Thank you,
Bhashwati.
Aparna. Yeah, right. Thank you, Aparna. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to our session, to our special session of today's Women's History Conclave, a conversation with Ashima Chhibber, with Rekha Pande. And let me introduce Professor Dipti Sharma. It's my privilege to introduce you, ma'am. Professor Dipti Misra Sharma completed her PhD in linguistics from University of Delhi. She spent several years in University of Hyderabad conducting research and teaching courses in linguistics. While in the university, she developed interest in the field of computational linguistics and moved to IIIT Hyderabad to pursue her interest. She is currently Professor Emeritus at Language Technologies Research Center, LTRC, IIT, IIIT Hyderabad. Sorry. Her research interests include machine translation, including speech-to-speech machine translation with a focus on Indian languages and developing tools and data resources for Indian languages. She has successfully led several large research projects in the areas of Indian language to Indian language machine translation, development of dependency tree banks for Indian languages. So, welcome you all, ma'am. Now I ask Professor Rekha Pande to conduct the session and introduce and just to conduct the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Aparna, Bhashwati, and the Women's Conclave for organizing this webinar. And it's indeed a pleasure to see, old friends, Dipti, Ashima, Trina, and many others over here. So, before I want to start this conversation with Ashima and first asking her about her experiences in HCU. Her father taught in the University of Hyderabad, and we have known him much more than we know Ashima. And we've only seen her as a child, and we were in close touch with her mother. So, Ashima, I would really want you to tell us a little about your early memories of HCU, your education, and your interests.
Thank you. Yes, I grew up in Central University of Hyderabad, and I think when you're that young, you're so those are your formative years, and everything that one sees and learns. And sorry, just 1 second. Sorry, children in the house. So. So my, my entire, every time I shut my eyes, what I see is Central University of Hyderabad. So I'm extremely attached to that place. I grew up there. Till my 12th, I was there. In fact, I saw HCU come up in front of our eyes. There were only 4 blocks. And we used to play in the rubble of all the buildings that are there now. Including many departments and the schools and the there was the GT, which was in town, Golden Threshold. We used to go there every weekend. I used to go there in the bus with my father when he was teaching, and I was away from school. And so I think I'm one of the foundation pillars of HCU because I explored it so much. And every 15th of August and 26th of January, when it would be flag hoisting time, we would get golden laddus, motichur laddus, which all of us children used to wait in line. that when in the canteen they would be making it round. You'll be waiting to see when we will get the rest leftovers.
Yeah, so Ashima, great to hear that. And I think just to tell all our other viewers, HCU has one of the largest campus in Asia. We started with 2,800 acres of land. There was so much of greenery. Today, you cannot recognize this place. This was a big jungle, but today we have the high tech city and other things, and it is as crowded as any other place. So I'm glad you have those memories of the early days when HCU was just, forming and it was just coming up. I can you tell us a little more about your education? How did you get interested in direction then?
Um, Actually, it was, I guess it was happening from my childhood without realizing it, because, HCU had a very prolific theatre culture as well. And we had Dr. Marathi, who was, running the Little O Theatre.
Yeah.
And every 2 years, there would be some Shakespearean play or the other. And I was a kid, but I would run around backstage, and, I was fascinated by the way these cultural events would come together, people getting ready, doing rehearsals for hours on end, and then in the end there would be these like big theatrical production. So I would find myself usually either holding a shampoo bottle, or some pins, or holding a dupatta to put on, or sewing something. So I was always very, very um, attentive and excited to be involved in the theater um, productions in HCU. So, and also we had, um, because it was a university campus, there were always something or the other happening. So, so I think from there itself, I got interested a lot in literature and what theater is, and how theater affects and impacts people collectively in one time. And so I would read a lot, and even in school I was always participating in cultural activities like singing, recitation, which was my favorite, reciting poems, and singing, and this kind of stuff. So I always I think Dipti auntie will remember very well, I was always in her house singing songs, or going to her and saying, can you please explain this poem to me, can you please explain this to me, can you please say this to me. So yeah, I think my interest in stories comes from that time of my life. And then as I continued studying, I did my 10th and then my 12th, and then I went to JNU to do my BA and MA, which also has a very like strong street theater culture, which I tried to be part of, but I think I just couldn't remember so many lines and dialogues, all in Hindi. So I would again be backstage, but I was, this is how I came about realizing, or just soaking in storytelling from very, very childhood. And I think to a great extent it is also because of HCU and my exposure to Shakespearean literature at that time when I was a kid, and I did not even know um, what theater was technically.
Rekha, if you don't mind, I would like to narrate a story because Ashima mentioned
Yeah.
her childhood on the campus. So she was one of those people, kids at that time, who were very actively involved in also organizing and participating in the cultural events that this campus, the faculty and the small community which stayed there would have. So there was this one particular instance I remember. I don't know whether you remember it, Ashima. She, along with a couple of kids her age group, around 10, 12, or maybe younger than 10, got together to organize an evening for the neighborhood. And we were the audience. And they gathered younger kids and trained them. And the best part was it was so impressive that I still remember it more than 30 years back. That the stage was the steps to the upper floors and landing. Landing and the steps were the stage,
and one of the apartments was the green room, and the show had, of course, drama, music, dance, everything. It was 1 hour show, very impressive. So I just thought, he says it started there. It started there actually.
So, Ashima, that reminds me that honhar ke put, palne mein hi dikh jate hain. So you have a very interesting early childhood. And today I'm sure you know that HU has a separate department, media studies is doing so well. They have all drama, theater and everything. That time it was still not there.
Wow,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you, Dipti auntie, for all the dupattas and all the necklaces. I remember.
And Ashima, so like your entry into Bollywood, from what we know, none of us have access to Bollywood. We only read in the papers, we only get to know. It's very difficult for an outsider to make a mark. So how was your struggle before you could really make your first film?
It's a very long question, actually. I don't know if I want to go into all the details and bore you with it. But I'll tell you what happens is the struggle in filmmaking is always coming up with the right subject to make. Because I think in every field of work, whether it is medicine or whether it is anything, you have to the starting steps are always difficult, and you will be surprised to know that everybody in the film industry comes from outside. The people who have made it, people who are still trying, the mid people who are like us, who have all risen the ladder from the very beginning. So it's difficult for everyone. And but I think what I was smart about was that when I came to Bombay, when I realized that I want to be in films and I want to be in within the Bollywood system, and and be in the circuit. When I reached here, I realized that it's going to be very difficult for me to fit in, because I came from a very I was educated, I had a very strong opinion, I knew what I liked, what I didn't like. So I thought, okay, let me, I have to find directors to work with as an assistant to the directors that I admire, because I knew that I would never fit into a Golmaal or a or a Simba or these kind of films. I had to work with directors who were into more, I guess, more serious storytelling, because that's what even I wanted to do. So then I worked with, Imtiaz, who made Rockstar. I worked with Shimit, who made Chak De India, and that's how my journey began. But by the time, also what I didn't realize at the time was that there are producers who are watching assistant directors and sort of waiting to see who emerges on the scene as the next director. And after I finished working on these films as an assistant, one of the producers, the prolific Aditya Chopra, then so he asked me to make the first film with their production house, Yash Raj Films. And so I read the script and I thought that this is a good script for me to work with, to start my career as a director with. And that's how my career as an assistant director ended, and started off as a director. And then after I did my first film, Mere Dad Ki Maruti, then I started off in TV. I did a lot of advertising, I did music videos, I did the usual directorial business starts. So yeah, the struggle is always, I feel, it's internal. It's the subject that you are attracted to and the subject you pick up to make.
Okay, Ashima, tell us something about your first film. What was your experience? Because you were doing a film independent, totally, you were not assisting anyone. So what was that experience like?
Um, well, it was a comedy. It was called Mere Dad Ki Maruti, and it was a story about two boys who lose the father's car, and then how they find it. But eventually it is a father-son story, where the father says that, if you had a problem, why did you not confide in me instead of running around the entire township? So because it was a comedy, I also wanted it to have some depth. I don't know how many people here have seen it, but it was a teenage.
They've all seen
so,
it.
so it was a sort of teenage story of coming of age, and so I wanted to handle it in such a way that it is enjoyable to watch, but also say something about a father-son relationship. Then there is a mother, there is a wedding, the usual tropes that make it engaging for an audience to watch. uh, with music and all that kind of stuff. But what happens is that when you do films at a smaller level, then the reach also to the people is small. What happens with the big films is when you have the big stars and the big songs and the big action sequences, is whatever you want to say, those are the routes through which you get into the grassroots of the country. The your reach to the local people increases when you use those tools. But that's everything is a budget driven.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Ashima, we saw a very interesting video of a box of laddus. It was so fascinating. I'm sure many of the viewers are not familiar with this. And after this, I'm sure they are going to go to YouTube and watch that thing. Can you tell us a little about it? The theme, I found it so interesting.
Well, I find now that we are talking about feminism on this in this forum, I do find that many of the women directors in our industry are single, and there is a reason for that. Is because I think that women or female directors are so busy with work, and they are unable to I think the film industry or being a director is so all encompassing that you are shortchanged when it comes to other departments of your life. So most women, most female directors here, I have found that they were unable to get married. Either there were no men, or the boyfriends want greener pastures, or it's very difficult. There's so much temptation. So I find that or I rather I found myself in such a spot very soon in my career as a director, and I realized that not many people, if you put up an ad in a matrimonial saying eligible girl, and tick all the boxes, convent educated, fair Punjabi, whatever you want to put, you put it in the paper and you will not get a single or whether you log on to any of these websites which are for dating or marrying, you just do not get any response, because it just is not an attractive partner profile, I suppose. So so then I decided, okay, if this is the case, then we might as well think of plan B. So then I thought to myself that what does a marriage do anyway? First and foremost, it's for having babies. So let's think of an alternate. If you can't find a husband, then let's see what is the use of the husband, and then let's just delete that concept and move to the next step, which is having a child. So as you will see in our industry, at least, you have like Karan Johar, he has had his 2 children through surrogacy. Then Ekta Kapoor, she's also had a child through surrogacy. It's because single people, I have to, you have to find your own happiness. You have to make your decisions and choices for your own happiness. No one else can do it for you. So then I decided to just have a child on my own, and I went to the doctor and I said, let's do this. So doctor said, okay, good girl. and and then after a few trials of IVF, then my child was born.
Great.
So I skipped the entire marriage husband business, and just went ahead and had a child.
Lovely.
And I'm very happy, I must say.
How old is he now?
He is going to be 5.
Oh, great. Lovely. So, Ashima, now let's come to your next film, and how did you get interested in the theme, and, how did you hear about it? What attracted you to it?
See, firstly, when I heard it, I myself was a new mother. My child was only 1.5 years. And I had already followed the story when it broke in 2011. I remember watching it on the news and wondering what was going on in Norway and what prompted, because I had already lived abroad. I knew that these services exist. And I knew that the cultural differences are always there, because as an Indian, when you go to another country, there is a fitting in problem anyway. So I was quite aware, and especially if you're going, as from such a traditional place as Burduman, from where she was. So I figured that, I was very curious as to what was going on and what happened that they made the children separate from the mother, and that to a breastfeeding child. Like, which country would be, where would it be okay to do this? What could have caused this? So anyway, then I watched everything that was possible on news, and then I guess the children came back to India, and then there was no more news. But the thing is, then when someone called me, the writer of the film called Samir, he called me, and so he said, I have a story. I don't know. It came to me as a show at that time. It had, I think, 10 episodes or something. And he said, we have this show we are making, and I think you'll be good for it. Do you want to read it? So I said, okay, let's see. And then when I read it, I couldn't see it as a show. I could only see it as a film, because I knew the story, and I knew that, there's certain elements that you need to make a film. One is, of course, that, on whose shoulders are you going to mount the film? And so a lot of other things, but I thought it would be a better film. And then as I researched the film, I realized that it doesn't just end. It didn't end at the children coming to India. It carries on. Her struggle to get the children carried on for another 9 months after the children were brought back to India. So, so I felt that I was pretty jolted, actually, when as I was listening and reading the pages that were coming to me, the book, the manuscript. To me, it felt like literally like a thriller, because I was turning pages and thinking, oh my God, this can't be happening, this can't be happening, this can't be happening. And because I'm a writer director, my mind was already ticking. I could already see the shots, I could already see the pace in the film, I could already see a lot of things. And I could also see the emotion of the film, because especially in India, where we like our mother's stories, whether it is Mere Paas Maa Hai or Bharat Mata, or, these kind of uh, themes that we usually enjoy watching. And especially me, because I grew up in Hyderabad, there was always a Telugu films, and then there was a Telugu mother. Many of the times the mother was blind or something like that, and then the sons would be there and they would take care of her. And so I felt that the story had all the elements to make a good film, because it had a victory also in the end.
Ashima, take us through that whole process of, what preparations you had to make before starting the film. How did you select the actors? And, did you approach anyone else? So we would really like to understand a director's mind, how it works.
All decisions come from the story. And I personally feel that every story has its own naseeb. If it has to come to you as a director, it will find you, and that is when you give the best to the story. So after the book came to me, it's from the book, The Journey of a Mother, which is written by Sagarika. And the book came to me, and then I thought, okay, so my first thing was to write a script and see whether it works. Then only a film can be even thought about. So I took a month off, and then I started writing the script. And I'll tell you, within 20 days, I had an entire film script ready, which normally people take years to write, because I had so much clarity of thought as to what this film should be like. So I wrote the script, and then I thought, now I've written the script, but there's a very big problem here: is who's going to act in it? Because I don't know if it is very appealing for any actress to play a mother of two children, and it was set abroad where the pandemic had already started, so there would be no producer who would be wanting to take it on. And also then the traveling, even if a producer did take it on, there were no visas available. Like, the second wave was on, and they were just not wanting Indians to come there to shoot. And apart from that, it was just a very difficult film to get money for. So then, and while I was writing, I could not think of anyone else but Rani, because when you think of a Bengali mother, you know, and Rani and I were already, friends. I used to work in Yashraj. I made my first film there. We used to always bump into each other because she's married to Aditya Chopra, who was also, my boss at that, not at that time, but previously. And also, I had, when I took the decision of being a single mother, like the way I am, she was one of the first people I sort of confided in, and I said, this is my plan. So, and then I also saw a side to Rani, which was so compassionate and so understanding and so motherly and uh, so big hearted and so forward thinking that you know the words came out for her. And as you and all the people here who have seen the film will know that I don't think any heroine all over the world could have performed this better than her. So, we took the film to her, and I got my producer Nikhil Advani to call at that time. I said, "Tum Rani ko phone karo, और उसको script भेजो, and we'll take it from there." He said, "अच्छा ठीक है." And then and then the rest was history. I mean, I was so confident that she would like it, because if you're a mother, the pathos that the script carries, the story carries, you cannot walk past, you cannot put it down, you cannot pass it. And so she was very excited about the film, and then we met, and then she had all these uh, brilliant ideas, which I very cleverly used in the film and called them my own. They were all coming from her, because she was feeling it so much, in her clothes and her her behavior and the way she had just the entire script was inside her body. She was having like I was having an outer body experience just watching her perform it. So it fell into place. And then music is a very big part of Indian films, because that is your first impression and view of any film. It's how we sell films. It's the vehicle of whether it is a trailer or whether it is music. All these things are released before the film releases. That's when people either like it or don't like it or come to the theater. So music is a very big part of the film industry. So then, of course, then Amit Trivedi, who is very famous, so I think everybody knows him. So then I thought, okay, Amit is a very good choice for us as a music director, because we wanted somebody who can do pathos and bring in flavor, because Bengali flavor is so uh, so much in the film. And which then anyway, then I had to narrate the script to him. So he was very moved, and then he said, "Okay, I'll call you tomorrow." And he called me first thing in the morning, and he was like, "I couldn't get the film out of my head, and let's sit for the music sittings." And then for lyrics, it needed a very emotional, poignant, and yet easy to understand a writer, because the simplicity of this mother is what needed to be in the lyrics, because music and lyrics stay on and on and on and on and on and forever. They are the memory of the film that people carry in the generations. So so it had to capture the essence of the time we are in, but also it should be timeless, because the story had such a contemporary conflict. So yeah, so these were the ways. And then we had a lot of lawyers casting, which came from Norway, from Estonia, where we finally shot the film. That was the only country that let us come in and shoot there, because it was a pandemic, and we got only 50 visas. And so there was just me, my assistant directors, then our actors, even our producers could not come for the shooting. It was just me, my team, and then the actors, and everything else we took locally. The cameraman, everything was local hire. So, and of course, duration of the shoot was also, because it was a low budget film, it was an experimental film, it was all of that female stories. Again, they don't trend. very much in theatrical releases, and also this kind of story which had a little intellectual vibe to it. There are lawyers, there are people talking about child rights, human rights, all this kind of stuff. So it was a very difficult film to make, and I also had to study and research a lot of law because I didn't know anything, other than obvious things. But I thought, for me to be able to write dialogues, I need to know, you know, what is happening in Strasbourg and what's happening in Norway and what's happening in Sweden. And so I contacted a lot of human rights activists from Norway, lawyers. I got a lawyer in India who would help me write the courtroom scenes, because I don't know how lawyers behave in a court. I don't know whether they say Your Honor or whether they say Me Lord, or what do they say. So this all research goes into it. So yeah, I got a local Indian lawyer who, the last, I don't know if all the people who watch the film, the last half an hour of the film is so engaging. And it's because I got so many lawyers to talk about these problems, and that's how the courtroom scene came about. The climax came about. So so a lot of research went into it while writing, and also for casting, because we had a huge lawyer casting that came from Estonia, local people, and then a lot of Bengali actors, and we needed really the top and serious actors. So yeah, it was like every film, it was heavy lifting.
And Ashim, I read somewhere that later on, I think you shot the film in Estonia, but then Norway also opened up and they wanted you to shoot the film there. And again, they were upset with some of the aspects of the film. How true it is, I don't know. This is something which I have read.
Well, the name of the film is Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. So Norway is a versus, but at any point it doesn't say Mrs. Chatterjee versus bad Norway. So, yeah. So it was when you're making a film, or at least with this story or any film for that matter, you have to have a take on it. You have to have your own standpoint. You have to have your own ideology. You have to have your own thinking, to be able to convince yourself and therefore convince the audiences. So even in my story, I took the feeling of the mother and went ahead with that. In every scene, you feel what the mother felt when she was in that situation. Whether Norway was right or wrong, that is for the Norway people to decide. Instead of, we did meet the ambassador, and maybe he was, he was unhappy or maybe not very convinced about Norway being portrayed as villains. Hello. Yes. Excuse me. Can you go there and sit down? Huh? I'm a leg. I'll show you. Okay, thank you. Star. It's a star? Okay. Everything I done, yeah. It's a flower. Yeah, Mama's in a meeting. Go now. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We all go through it.
So, yeah, actually, when we announced the film, there was no news from them. Like, they didn't contact us immediately. I would think that if people are, especially they have embassies here, they have their cultural centers in Bombay, in India, a name like Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway would catch their attention. But they did reach out to the producers and said that we are very happy you're making a film called Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, but we would like to tell you that we are very open and liberal, and we will never and we promote freedom of speech and creative. So we would welcome you to come and shoot in Norway. But by then it was already too late. We were already ready to shoot in Estonia. We had set up the entire production, and also I wasn't sure, I was scared. What if they take my own child? Because this mother is always shooting and her child is not being brought up properly. So
that's true.
So yeah.
I know, that's really very interesting. No, to us, like you are giving so much, you did so much of a research, but I think it's a very strong feminist film. See, because the way, she's always ridiculed not being a good mother. And I mean, you really brought out those points very clearly. So, I mean, how do you look upon this as a feminist film? Can you tell us?
Sorry, 1 second. Let me just shut the door. Otherwise, no.
No, no, let him sit there. Yeah.
Um, I don't know. As a feminist film, I don't. Can you repeat your question?
No, I was saying that to us, it's a very strong feminist film. Because yes, on one hand, it talks about, the biological mother trying to get her children. But the way, she reacts when she's ridiculed, on so many things that she's not a good mother, she's not balanced. I think her natural instincts really come up. So do you look upon this only as a feminist film or something else?
I mean, how can one not? It's a story about a mother who's breastfeeding. And if
Mm.
your child is taken away at that time, it's natural to react like that.
Mm.
Go from here. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I don't know how it is not to be taken as a feminist film or a film about women, because it is. If you're postpartum, I don't know how else you're going to react. When your child is taken away from you, you're expressing milk and sending it to the police station for them to give it ahead to your child. I don't know even if you are ever going to be sane. And the real mother, Sagarika's own son who was taken away, that has had such an impact on his mind. I mean, he's developed all kinds of
Problems. Yeah.
problems which they are addressing and sorting out, but it is from that particular incident.
Mm.
So why should it not? A mother or any person is allowed to react naturally. Why are we sanitizing the reaction? Why are we making it clinical? I don't understand. That is her reaction. If she's screaming and shouting because nobody knows what it is to be postpartum when you're still feeding your child and your child is taken away.
Mm.
So I don't know which reactions people talk about, because to me this is natural. It's not. It's about being a mother. So why would she not scream and shout? She did, and that's how the children came back. Even if you take a puppy away from a new dog who has given birth, the dog is not going to be swatting flies. He will
Mm,
come after
definitely.
you. So
Yeah, I know. Ashima, I've taken so much time. I'll just ask one last question and then open it up because I'm sure everyone has so many questions. I thought, I should really make it short now. When I had, I really want your take on patriarchy, because I also watched a lot of videos of Sagarika and her husband. Her husband hardly allows her to talk. He dominates the whole conversation when I'm saying. And I think throughout the film also, like, he is so much bothered about his status. He wants his status. He doesn't want to rub the government the wrong way. And so, though definitely you're talking in terms of two different cultures, clashing with each other, their whole notion of childcare, etc. But you also show in how, especially for the Indian family, patriarchy is so strong. Can you tell me something? How do you look upon that?
I mean, of course, it is there, and that is how she was, allowed to be ridiculed. Firstly, the husband should have. I mean, I'm no one to comment on anyone's marriage, but he should have, addressed the fact that somebody was belittling his wife, and that they were checking up on her and watching her and observing her, and she was cooking for them, and they would make racist slurs. They would ridicule not only her but the country as well. And in the original story, original incident. And so I don't know what the husband was doing.
Mm.
And most of these women who are coming into your houses, they are not even you know uh, they're children. They're like 25 years old or 20 years old, doing internships or heaven knows what. And you are allowing them. You have to allow them into your house, and they will tell you what the equation is. So So a girl coming from like Burdwan kind of place is obviously not going to know what is the culture. It's her husband who has been living there for so long has to bring it out. But if he himself is going to belittle her in front of them, then obviously the gates are open, and it is so much easier to just put your wife down than it is to address her. So and in any way, as we have seen in the film also, it is like the child rearing is the woman's responsibility, and she is, and there is some strategy in which children can be born and brought up by the mother. The mother should already know. I don't think that in Norway there is some set rule book, or even if there is, I don't know if that should not be applicable to us. We have our own ways, our own system. We are all fine. Our parents brought us up. So so yeah, I do feel that, there is a lot that went on behind the scenes with her, with the family, which I can't comment on, of course, and I don't want to, because it's the family thing. But patriarchy is also felt a lot through the women, who are allowed to do this, and not even just the Norwegian women. It's also when you come to India, the the mother-in-law, the family, the neighbors, it's almost like to support another woman is looked upon as a ridicule. I there's a lot. I can go on with the complete different conference about about the way things happen to women.
Ashima, that was really beautiful talking to you, getting to know the director's point of view, and for that lovely film. I hope, tell us a little about your future projects. What are the kinds of other themes that you're looking forward? And I would now leave it open for others to question.
I have not yet decided what I want to do next. I'm reading a couple of scripts. I have some options, but I would like to do something a bit more lightweight this time, because it was such an intense film. It takes a toll on you, because you're watching the film morning to night, at the edit, then at the music, then at the color correction, then at the VFX. You're living the film 24/7. It's not just the shooting part. So it does take a toll on you, and I would like to do a comedy.
Great.
Let's see.
So we look forward to that. Thank you, Ashima. And Aparna, I leave it open now. You can ask the audience to ask questions.
Yeah. So
Will Professor Dipti Sharma say a few more words about Ashima and her films?
Thank you. I kind of intervened when Ashima was talking about her life on University of Hyderabad campus, because that's where we spent time together. I was much older, of course, and Rekha's questions and the entire discussion. Actually, thank you, both of you. This was wonderful. More than that, I don't have anything to comment. Ashima, I was just curious, because when I was reading about your work, there is this movie, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Ketina or Tina?
Ketina, yeah.
Ketina. So what is, can one talk about that? I mean, that's one of your projects. It's not yet released, but
yeah, it's one of the projects, but the project didn't work out. Like when we started shooting, but then it was not falling into place.
Okay.
So yeah, so then we just abandoned it.
Okay, because I read somewhere that it is going to be released sometimes in near future. So that's not happening. Okay.
No, maybe if somebody else picks it up and rewrites the script and makes it, then maybe, but not with me.
So one thing I would like to say about Ashima, she grew up on University of Hyderabad campus. She was one of the active kids there in all spheres, and she was different from the beginning. So What impressed me was that after her schooling, unlike all other kids of that age at that time, she chose not to follow a professional degree of becoming an engineer or going to medicine or one of those even basic science fields. She chose to do language in JNU, and JNU offers that integrated program. And there also, I remember we had this conversation at that point. She picked a language which was not German, not French, not Chinese, more popular ones, but Spanish. Ashima, why did you pick Spanish?
Spanish boys are hot.
Okay, but how many of them did you meet in JNU?
None. All the boys in JNU came from Bihar. But I chose Spanish because I had seen a lot of Spanish films when I was in. Actually, I had two options. I wanted to do German also because Dipti auntie came back from Germany with tapes and tapes of Tom and Jerry, which we have all in our university watched in German. So I was like, this is a great language. The Chuas and Billies also are talking in German. So I think German is the good language. I still remember the opening song. So my first was because of my song, and I calculated. I had options to do French and German and Spanish, and then I thought Spanish were the cooler lot of people, and they also had a very good theater team. The Spanish theater within the JNU was very well known. So there were people coming from IIIT to participate in that, people coming from a lot of places. So people would come to watch the Spanish plays, which were in Spanish, by the way. And in one of those plays, I was Crocodile.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you. I also thought probably your love for theater and cinema maybe also led you to Spanish, because that
Yes,
has that.
most definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I had a question. This is Shub and Trina's husband. Ashima ji, the question is, how did you select the husband Anirban Bhattacharya? Anyone recommended, or did you have any personal connection with Anirban?
No, I had no personal connection with Anirban. Actually, we were looking for the correct husband, and we went through many husbands. And but nobody was fitting, because Rani herself is so as an actor, she is so strong that you need to, for an antithesis, you need an equally strong husband who can portray his fear of white people, his like subservience to the white people outside the house, and be the white person inside the house. So so we needed someone who could carry off this role with equal confidence that Rani had. So yeah, we went to a lot of husbands, but then I watched Anirban in something someone had forwarded to me, and when I saw it, I thought, because I wanted somebody who looks really good, like you would look at somebody and say, yeah, this is marriage material. He should be upwardly mobile, look progressive, look good, look like he is that he will give you a good life, but then he doesn't. And then he has all these ideas about, being citizen and all of that. So when I saw his video, I thought, yeah, this is a good guy. And then I initiated a meeting with him on Zoom. So when I saw him, I was like, this guy's really young. So young to me. So I asked him, I said, how old are you? So he said, Ashima ji, aap kaise puch rahi hain? So I said, no, because the paper I have with what you are saying and looking at you, I don't know. So he said, अरे ये तो सब get up है, makeup है, आप तो director है, आप जानती हैं. So I said, okay, okay. And then, because I liked him so much that I did not want anything to go wrong. So then, of course, then then we had a reading of the script, and then he was so good. And the way the role is written, what happens is when you write a role and then when the actor actually reads the dialogues and reads the part, that is when you realize whether the show or the film is working or not working, because it's how the dialogues are said. Sometimes they fall flat. You might write the best and most poetic stuff, but if it doesn't impact, then the dialogues are pointless. So then we had a reading of the dialogues, and he was so good, and he played the role so beautifully, that how he is scared of the white people, and he's always edgy and always, don't do like this, don't shout, don't talk. He's like the moral police. Yeah, so that's how we chose him. I mean, he's fabulous. I love him, and he's a great guy also.
I understand besides cinema, he also have a strong theater presence. Did that play a role?
Yes, yes.
He's a director also, and he's done. He's now
Yes.
doing Vyokesh, and he's also a
Yes,
lot of Shakespeare. So I think he's also doing Macbeth in
Yeah,
Bengal.
Anirban is very immensely popular in Bengal.
Yeah,
He's considered a brilliant actor.
he
You
is.
mentioned that you talked to a lot of, I'm sorry. You mentioned that you talked to a lot of husbands. Who are the other prospective candidates?
I can't tell you, but apuni Bengali industry nikal lo.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Acha, Ashima, yes. Acha, Bhashwati, yes, you speak.
I was just thinking about what was the reaction of Norwegian government when the film got released? Did you get any reactions from their point of view?
There was a lot of reaction, and everybody was happy that this film was made in the local communities and local people, because the halls were full for first almost 3 weeks. And I got a lot of messages from Norway, from people whose children had been taken, because it's not just the Indians and the immigrant communities, but also the local people are under threat now, because I don't know what the plan is. I don't know why are they not introspecting as to why these plans are there. I mean, separating a child from a parent cannot be a plan. That can only be detrimental. I mean, if they're so smart, then they have to come up with a plan. This is not a plan. So then we got a call from the ambassador himself saying on the 16th, the film released on 17th, and on 16th we got a call, and he said, we would like to see the film. So our production house arranged for a screening just for the ambassador. He came down from Delhi with 2 other people, and he looked angry. At least that's what I felt when he walked in. So I thought, pata nahi kitne gusse mein aaya. So he was, well, I can't say, but he looked really like not very happy. And then he watched the film, and then he looked double unhappy, and he said, okay, I will not say anything about the filmmaking. It's a very, very good film, and you it's, but I would like to say that it's a work of fiction, and nobody can run out of the house and jump on a car. The car will stop. In the beginning of the film, if you remember the sequence of where Rani runs out of the car and runs out of a house and jumps onto the car. I'm thinking, in that whole scene, this is what you saw. That Rani jumping on the car. Did you not see? They took her children. So, I think they were a little upset. Then he said a lot of things that, and then they came out with a statement in the Indian Express the next day. And then all the, human rights lawyers that are working in the case over there and here, then they had an altercation with but he refused to comment after that. So, but I feel that lot of the Norway people were waiting for this film to come. They were tracking it. They were waiting to see the impact it's going to have. And also Germany, we sent it for the Berlin Film Festival, where it was rejected. I do feel that the theme has something to play with it, some role to play in the rejection, because Germany is also very big on this. The there's another baby case that is going on, baby Ariha. So that's the German child welfare. So yeah, I think the government officials didn't take very well to it. But then he said, it's a work of art, and we do not intrude in any creative process. We will let you go ahead with the film, and we will release the film in Norway. We will see to it that as a work of art, it gets its due, which is good and fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yes,
Hello, ma'am.
Ashima. Yes.
Anji?
Okay,
Can I
please.
ask? Yeah, sorry.
Navonil has a question, right?
Hello, ma'am.
Navonil, please ask your question.
Big fan of the movie. My mom stole my question, so I'll just modify it a little bit. I asked her to ask you this question, like, what was the impact of the Norwegian government about the film? But like, since you were making the film, in the time you were making the film, you had to like tell the government about like what it was about. And did you face any like type of censorship during the shooting? Were there any scenes that you wanted to shoot that you couldn't because of like legal reasons?
Yeah, we have to vet the script legally from the Indian lawyers as well. It's not like you can just go and shoot and be irresponsible.
Right.
I wanted to be very responsible and very accountable, because there are also real children involved in this story. So the children will grow up, and the children will watch the film, and they will see their parents in whichever way they are portrayed. So I wanted to be as true to the story that had happened. And I was very aware that so we had a lot of lawyers come in, read the script, pick out faults, like certain lines that you cannot use, certain accusations you cannot make, those kind of things, which also I think is the wisdom of the producers. And so that the film doesn't get stalled anywhere. But yeah, so that work happened in the prep. But because we did not go to Norway to shoot, and nobody can tell you outside what to shoot and what not to shoot, because it's against the law to stop anyone shooting, because again, it's a work of art. You can't stop somebody from their opinions. So, but then this work of art also costs money, so it has to be very carefully balanced, where you're able to say what you want to say, have your opinion as a filmmaker and as a thinker, and also entertain people with a story like this.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other question?
Yes. Yes, I've been waiting for long to ask Ashima this question. Ashima, do you think that an adoptive mother, or say foster mother, would have felt the same emotion if her children were taken away uh, compared to a biological mother? I'm asking this because you are a mother. Of course, you are a biological mother, but not in the conventional sense of the term. I mean, your child doesn't have, when a child is not an offspring of a marital relationship. So there are different kinds of mothers. I mean, motherhood should not be, I mean, the very idea of a mother who loves her children and doesn't want others to take them away from her should not be restricted to biological mothers only. I mean, don't you think that motherhood should be redefined? I mean, it is an instinct. It is an instinct, but but it may not be a natural instinct for all women, right? I mean, that's the point that I'm trying to make. That
Yes,
I
which
mean,
is also the point in the film that is made by the Norwegian lawyer is played by Jim Sarb.
yes, yes.
And I think this was a very big topic. Actually, it's a very interesting question, and I have argued with many people over this. I mean, I myself feel that motherhood should not be glorified so much that it becomes a burden. That everything is, that the standard that is set for motherhood is so high that you're just chasing it all the time. And this whole concept of being a bad mother and unfit and all of this, so but the thing is, if you see in the film, I have tried to balance it out with Jim himself saying exactly what you're saying, that an adopted mother does not feel any less or any more than a biological mother. And there is no one to say that the biological mother has the attachment that a foster mother or an adopted mother does not have. So I feel personally, as a person, not as a maker, as a person, I feel a mother is a mother. You know, you can be adopted mother, foster mother, biological mother, non-biological mother, you know, you could be mother, anything. When there's a child in the mix, your emotions are there and you will be emotional. So personally, I think that, yeah, there is a glorification of motherhood that needn't be. It can be very normalized. And also within the film, as you we have portrayed Jim Sir to be an adopted child, and he is well functioning, well earning, and very emotionally stable, or emotionally there, because in the end, you know, he himself says that uh, that yeah, this particular mother is different. So he agrees that there are some certain kinds of mothers. So also, of course, I believe in it, and I have very subtly tried to put it in the film. I mean, whoever caught it, because Jim playing the adopted child reveal that comes in the end of the film was important for us to see his demeanor as a very sensitive guy in the end, you know. And so that means he's also brought up by adopted parents, but he's a fabulous guy. So when the children grow up, whether you are adopted or you are biological, I don't know. I think the parent-child bond is so special that, you know, a father can also feel. At one point, I considered, because I was not able to find a good producer for the film, so I thought if I make it a hero wanting his children back, might be, you know, easier to get a film made. So all these options are there. But yeah, to answer your question, um, I feel the balance has been tried to strike within the film dialogues.
I'm glad you didn't look at a father getting the children. We are very happy with the way it has been shaped up.
I know, but you know, at the end of the day, you have to make a film which also, see, we are all educated, English speaking, people, but the film is, we already read the papers and we know the story, but the film has to permeate into the masses also, because work of art cannot be just hung in drawing rooms. You know, it has to get into the people, which we had a problem, even because the language of, if you're living abroad, then you have to speak the local language. So we were battling already with three languages in the film, and then the actors started speaking in Bengali, and at some point even I didn't know whether I should call for cut, because when they finished their line, I was like, acha, line khatam ho gayi, cut. Because I can't understand Bengali. So I thought they will say something else. So, you know, and then there was Norwegian, which I also had to learn a little bit to understand what the dialogues were being said or get the accents right, which we didn't eventually, but it's very, very difficult. So, yes, have I answered the question?
Yeah. Anyone else?
Thank you.
So I think
Any questions? Yeah.
Ma'am, may I ask you a question, ma'am?
yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Ma'am,
Sure.
okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I have seen that, ma'am, Gauri Balaji has been played the role of Miss Pratap, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a question that, ma'am, do you think that casting female lawyer will help to advocate for female legal literacy for women, ma'am? As, ma'am, your standpoint is very much clear, feminist standpoint for this film.
See, the thing is, she was cast because the original lawyer was Suranya Iyer, and Manishankar Iyer's daughter, who's also a very big activist of these cases now. And she's I mean, I know her now after the film is released, and she's such a fabulous, wonderful person. And but she was Gauri Balaji was cast because of Suranya Iyer. The original lawyer was also a female lawyer and child rights and a feminist women's issues lawyer. So that was the reason why. So we were trying to stay true to the story. But I think Gauri Balaji, the way she played the part was so effective, in the sense that when you see her coming into the court and being all like, you just think, she's never going to win anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Because she comes in, मैं पहले बस में आई, फिर मैं रिक्शा में आई, फिर मैं ऐसे किया, मैंने वैसे किया. And then you have this like really towering judge who says, behave yourself. And then you have this like really razor blade sharp, sophisticated lawyer who has come from Norway, and he's giving all this spiel about um, rights of children, and how the children should be taken back to Norway, and he strikes a very good argument. I felt,
Yes, ma'am.
that if the children if the children continue to be in India, and if the mother died, what's to happen to the kids then? Has anyone thought of a backup plan?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah. So I thought that because in the end, Rani is just sitting on a chair, till her time comes. For 20 minutes, you actually don't see the heroine of the film at all. She's just there in spirit because they're fighting about her children. But the arguments, I feel, are pretty compelling. That's yeah. So that's why Gauri Balaji was there, but she played the role really beautifully and made the climax work so well against Jim, because Jim is again a very popular actor and very prolific at what he does. And so this is how actors come in and they run with the role, because when you write something, you write in one particular way, but when actors come in and perform it, you just don't think that it could have even come out to be like this.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So does anybody have a question? Anybody else? I think
I
somebody's
had
trying to speak.
one
Yes.
more question. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
not
when you
worry.
were, hi ma'am, when you were writing the script, did you have any, while you were cast, like, did you have anyone in mind for any particular role? Or did you think that, okay, let me write the script first, we'll see who suits it best?
Actually ऐसा होता नहीं है, जब आप when you're writing a script, generally you keep somebody in your mind when you're writing, because when you're writing dialogues, you need to imagine someone speaking them for us to know, when as to take a judgment whether the script has any legs or not, because one writes a lot of scripts. I've written a lot of scripts which eventually I only felt that this is rubbish and I put them in the dustbin. So so that's part of a filmmaker's process. When you write, even for Chatterjee, I wrote so many versions of the same script. Like every color, every time I make a film or a project, I use something. Sometimes I use animal names, or sometimes I use cartoon names. For this film, I tried to use colors. So this was blue script, which is number one. Then there was red script, which is number two. So every color in the spectrum I have used. So, but yeah, I always had Rani in my mind. And I feel that in the film, so many things went wrong, but became better than what we had imagined. Because I feel the mother, the real mother who suffered the story, who suffered the problem, her spirit was so strong. And I felt that it was because of that mother that everything happened so perfectly with the film. Even in the release, it's still running in the halls here in Mumbai, in Calcutta, in Delhi, and in Norway, some parts of Europe in the fifth week of release. Which is a huge accomplishment for a non-man film. Don't
Yeah,
mind.
definitely. Definitely.
So, has Shagorika watched the film, and how has she responded to this film? Have you interacted with her after the film was released?
Yes, I have. I've interacted with her for the last 3 years, and she's an amazing woman, because as you can see in the film, it's true to the spirit of the spirit of Sagarika. And yeah, she watched the film, and we put her in the edit on the internet also, and I sat next to her just to see her reactions as to how she would react. And she said, ये तो मैं ही हूँ, मुझे लग रहा है मैं अपने आप से निकल के फिल्म में घुस गई हूँ, यही हुआ. Obviously, I heard her story. She was so emotional, and she was feeling the film so much, and to see her own self back 10 years ago, I think it was a huge emotional impact on her. And then she was quiet for a very long time. And what was amazing was that the baby in the film is now 10 years old. So that baby was also there. So she kept hugging the baby, and I was also so emotional that I was also hugging the baby who was now 10 years old. And so Sagarika's reaction was superb. And she cried a lot. She I think when her family saw it, her parents saw it also, they were very emotional.
And what about her husband? Her ex-husband. They are separated or are they divorced? Are they legally divorced?
No,
Sagarika's husband?
No, I don't know actually. I have kept myself away from that side of the family because, as a filmmaker, you have to just take one stand. If you just then I just followed Sagarika's story.
Aparna, from what I have read in different, channels and all, I think they have separated. After that, she studied. Then she went and she lived in Gurgaon. She had to work to take care of her children, So her struggle was still not over after getting the children, That's what I've heard. We've taken so much time, Aparna. If there are no questions, you can wind up.
Yes.
Thank Ashima, and beautiful, lovely interaction.
Thank you, Professor Rekha Pande. Thank you, Professor Dipti Misra. And thanks to all who've joined today from different parts of the globe. I'm very happy that Srina Mukhopadhyay and Shubhen Mukhopadhyay have joined today. So
Thank you.
Great seeing you all. It was a lovely evening, and
we enjoyed very much. And thank you, Ashima ji.
Thank you everybody. How nice to see people wanting to listen to what I have to say or what I have to say. It's really very heartwarming.
See, Ashima, we only look at the film, but we don't understand what goes into the mind of the director. So I was very keen that we understand the mind of the director. How do they go about, making these films? And thank you very much for that beautiful film.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Joshua has made the poster for this session. Joysmita, you are not there today, but anyway, we thank you. We thank you after every event that she's really the person who makes all the posters. She does it silently. And my daughter Rushati, she does the recording part, and she was here today, and she's recorded. I think she has successfully recorded the entire event, and after this is uploaded, we will share the link with you all. Put it on YouTube and share the link on Facebook as well. So thank you all for a wonderful evening. What a wonderful way to start the Bengali New Year. Actually.
Go. Okay. And Ashaji, thank you so much. Best of luck for your next venture.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, we look forward to your next venture.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Ashima ji, thank you, Rekha. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.